Hey everyone, welcome back to Reason and Theology. The tense situation in the Middle East has erupted into an all-out war between Israel and Iran. Yesterday afternoon, in fact, evening, Israel began what it calls a preemptive strike and a preemptive war with Iran because it believes that Iran is preparing nuclear weapons and has already effectively reached the point where it has potentially been able to make 9 nuclear weapons, according to Netanyahu. And so it claims that it created this preemptive war in order to safeguard Israel's existence because Israel feels that its existence is threatened by this potential nuclear capabilities with Iran. Now, Iran has been responding with more attacks, lobbing attacks back at Israel, especially concentrating on Tel Aviv. Then Israel has been returning more attacks itself, and then Iran has been throwing back more. And so there have been several rounds now of Israel and Iran just in an all-out war, bombing each other. This is absolutely tragic situation, very tense situation. Many people are concerned that this will spill over into a greater war. Maybe some are saying World War III. Who knows? People have predicted a World War III for decades, and so far it hasn't come. Some people are fearing this might trigger other involvement from other nations. In fact, the United States is already involved in the situation with Israel. In fact, there are some United States troops, it would seem, or military personnel that are now involved in the conflict. As it also appears, Pakistan is involved with the conflict. Now, of course, they are a nuclear nation with over 170 nuclear weapons, and so it's very concerning. Let me show you what all is going on right now on social media with Twitter. There's just a barrage of videos that people are uploading from Iran, from Israel, especially Tel Aviv, showing the destruction, showing the devastation, showing the reactions. We're going to take a look at some of this, and it's very, very concerning. I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know if there is any difficulty in hearing the audio. We're going to go ahead and begin to take a look at this material here. You should be able to see this video. This is supposed to be a clip of Tel Aviv as of today. Again, it's been just hit multiple times, and it's looking pretty bad. Take a look at this with me. And again, let me know if there are difficulties in hearing the audio on your end, because this is a live show. Looks just like absolute chaos. It almost looks like images from Gaza in some ways. It just looks like this is just a wasteland in some places, and it's a little surreal seeing this, of course, since I been to Tel Aviv many times. And so let me show you some more videos that are going on. This one is from Fox News. Iran strikes Israel's military headquarters, the Kirya. This is going to be effectively the analogous building to the Pentagon in Israel, and that has just been struck. Take a look at this.
This is a Fox News alert. Israel's version of the Pentagon just got hit by a missile barrage from Iran. New reporting from the Iranian state media say that there are explosions in Tehran now. Here to respond, Daniel Davis, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, and Eli Kohanim, former deputy envoy under Trump and an Iranian refugee. Lieutenant Colonel, let's start with you. The question Americans want to know tonight, I think, is are they safe given the fact that we've had a porous border for 4 years under Biden. And obviously, this is seen as a proxy war that the United States is helping at least wage against Iran.
Well, honestly, with what we've seen with how the Israeli Mossad operated behind enemy lines,
I mean, there's obviously much more to it. I'm just showing you a clip here, but now they're beginning to report on this. And it's not just Fox News that's reporting on Iran targeting the equivalent of the Pentagon in Israel. It's many, many others. And so it looks like they are being successful in hitting some strategic locations within Israel, as Israel has been successful in hitting some strategic locations within Iran. This is supposed to be Tel Aviv earlier today. Take a look at this. Residents of Tel Aviv are frequently uploading videos like this, and look at it. Appears like the Iron Dome is being activated here at the beginning. You can see some successful shooting down of various missiles from Iran. However, you can see some clearly getting through and penetrating the Iron Dome. So some here were clearly intercepted by the Iron Dome, but not all of them. And so it looks like Iran is effectively landing some significant hits here. Take a look at this one from CNN News.
The U.S. intel view that among the targets were Israeli airfields, but also, and this is crucial, the headquarters of Mossad, the International Intelligence Service of Israel, which is inside Tel Aviv. It's in the northern part of Tel Aviv, but it's in the city. It's in a densely populated area. And of course, the concern is if you're firing, even though Iran might consider that a military target, it is in a densely populated city.
Let me pause there and let me maybe make some applications here. What we frequently have seen from Israel is Israel has said one of the problems with Gaza is that Hamas has embedded itself within civilian locations, therefore making it very hard to avoid civilian casualties. That's been a pretty common complaint of Israel in order to justify some of the civilian casualties as they would deem collateral damage. So the idea here is that they're embedding themselves within a civilian context, yet I think some people would point out the irony here, and that is that the Mossad's headquarters is embedded within civilian communities in Tel Aviv. So whenever Mossad's headquarters is struck by Iran, of course, Mossad's headquarters would be a legitimate military target for Iran. When they strike that, there are going to be potentially some civilian casualties within Tel Aviv, since Israel has embedded its military forces at various places, even within the civilian context. At least that's how some are seeing it. And it looks like this individual here from CNN is talking about that as well. And so I think some people would point out there appears to be either some irony or even, some hypocrisy on part of Israel in placing Mossad's headquarters there within a civilian context. We're actually going to see a video either coming from right around that place in Tel Aviv, or in fact, we're going to see the Iron Dome itself in operation right around, surrounded by Tel Aviv citizens and civilian buildings. It's a somewhat, I suppose, odd place to place the Iron Dome, since if one is going to attack that military site, they're inevitably going to end up having some collateral damage among the Tel Aviv citizens. And so we're going to take a look at a video showing that here in just a second. In fact, here's a very quick clip of that video. There are various versions of it online, but what's going on here is Israel has launched a missile. You can see the stream there, the smoke stream. Israel has launched a missile firing at, incoming missiles from Iran being launched from here. I suspect this is Iron Dome. But what happens is whenever Iran goes to strike the Iron Dome, you'll notice it's embedded within a civilian context. This is Tel Aviv. These are civilian buildings all around, presumably. In fact, this is a civilian, it appears, who is filming this. And so take a look at what goes on in this video. So you can see this supersonic missile here, or hypersonic missile, I should say, hits very close to what presumably is the Iron Dome. Some people have said this is Mossad's headquarters. I don't know. I think this is more likely the Iron Dome because Israel, in longer videos, is shooting missiles from here. So that appears to be the Iron Dome in operation, in my estimation. Look at that, clearly hitting what appears to be a civilian target, unless further information comes out confirming that that's not the case. Appearances would seem to suggest that's what's going on. And this is what the IDF has just posted not long ago. Israeli civilians are currently being targeted by the Iranian regime, they say. They say the world cannot stay silent. And here they show all the places where they're being targeted by Iran. Now, I think some people might point out that it's illegitimate to speak of Iran targeting Israel when Israel is the one that started this war. I think probably some people would liken it to if you go and start a fight with somebody, you throw the first punch, and then that person punches you back, bloodies your nose, and gives you a black eye. You can't really complain when they do that, because you started the fight. So I think that's how some people are seeing it. Others are seeing this as, no, Israel had to do this for its own survival. Because, again, the assertion is that Iran wants to destroy Israel with nuclear weapons, and they're creating nuclear weapons right now. And so this is absolutely essential to the life of the Israeli people. And so they had to go ahead and start this war, but now they're being targeted back by Iran. I suspect that's how some others would see this situation. Of course, it does resemble in some ways other narratives about how various groups in the Middle East are, they possessing nuclear capabilities, weapons of mass destruction. And it turned out that they didn't have that. I mean, think of Iraq, for example, and that whole scenario. It was said that they had weapons of mass destruction. In that case, it turned out not to be the case. In the case of Iran, however, many people are testifying that they have transgressed certain rules and regulations and procedures as of late, and it appears that they've gone too far, and it appears that they do have the capabilities, and so a lot of people are making that claim and testifying to it. I suppose other people will still remain skeptical and would say that they don't trust anything that they're hearing, either from the American government or from Europeans who would suggest that Iran has such a capability, or that Israel had to initiate this preemptive war, as it has called it. Netanyahu himself has referred to it as a preemptive strike. In fact, we're going to watch a quick clip from where he announced that yesterday. But moving forward here, this appears to be another scene from Tel Aviv. Take a look at this.
Oh my God.
Clearly, you just saw two missiles successfully land there in Tel Aviv, while the Iron Dome is attempting to fight back, a little bit delayed there, but still operative to one degree or another. But it appears that there is an absolute bombardment of missiles that are effectively landing in Israel and piercing the Iron Dome. Now take a look at this one from Fox News.
Here, I think overwhelmingly Americans stand with Israel. The question is, do they support America getting offensively involved in this war? And I can say definitively, especially with younger Trump supporters, the answer is no. They want to have Israel fight Israel's war, to stand with Israel, intelligence sharing, defensive measures, totally defensible, and I think is legitimate because over 100,000 Americans, as Trey said, are in Israel. And America and Jordan have a long history of having defensive measures to protect civilians. But the question will be in the coming days and weeks, will there be clamoring for an offensive American strategy against Iran? Will some people say, hey, we can finally wipe them out. We have them on the ropes. I would introduce a little bit of caution towards that, especially from a younger generational perspective. One of the main reasons we were able to get young people to vote for President Trump so overwhelmingly this last election was a reminder that President Trump is the peace president, that President Trump is able to broker the impossible peace deals. Look what he did the other day between India and Pakistan. Look at what he did in his first term. And so I do believe that President Trump is uniquely positioned here to stand with our allies, to stand on the side of civilization, but also understand that his voters, they want to return to America first, to stand with what is right and just in the world, but we do not want a potential endless quagmire in the Middle East. And I'm confident President Trump will make sure that does not happen.
Okay, there's a lot more to dig into right there. Panel, I hope you'll hang with me.
Now, it was reported as recent as Monday that Trump told Israel not to go through with this attack against Iran. They clearly still went ahead and did so. And this has led some people to say that Israel doesn't appear to be a very good ally. They appear that they've become a liability rather than a friend, rather than an ally. Others are saying, no, they absolutely had to do this for their own survival. And I think in response to that, others, in fact, would point out, but wait, how can Israel speak of the necessity to defend its own survival when they would argue Israel's threatening the survival of the people of Gaza? So there's a lot going on here, a lot of different opinions, a lot of different perspectives. Sharing my screen here, showing you some more damage to Tel Aviv. This person comments, I don't think the Israelis are dancing tonight. From the images I've seen, it appears that there's a lot of devastation going on in Tel Aviv. I certainly have not seen any kind of celebration. However, I have seen celebration coming from other communities in other countries. In fact, we're going to take a look at that here in just a second. Now, here is a person actually getting excited that their Air Force defense system is being activated and repelling Israeli strikes. And so this is going to be within Iran. The system there appears to be operative, successfully
MashaAllah,
MashaAllah, the attacks there from Israel. This person here is clearly very excited.
آسمون تهران میدون فردوسی ماشاءالله ماشاءالله بزن حرومزاده رو بزن.
Looks like this is Tehran. That's at least what it indicates here in Arabic.
Allahu Akbar. جانم ماشاءالله.
So it appears to be something equivalent to an Iron Dome protecting the Iranian people from Israeli attacks. And here they're successful. Elsewhere, they have not been so successful, especially yesterday. Now, here is a person who is a resident of Tel Aviv, concerned and complaining and upset that their new home that they just purchased in Tel Aviv as of yesterday has now just been destroyed by Iranian missiles. Take a look at this. Very sad to see people losing their homes. I suspect some people are saying, however, that here, when Israeli citizens experience these kinds of things, they're tasting just a bit, and maybe even just a fraction of what people in Gaza are experiencing at the hands of the IDF every single day. Rabbi Shmuley, very noteworthy Orthodox Jewish rabbi and social media, highly controversial figure for numerous reasons, is reporting that a missile has just landed right where his daughter lives. Many people are familiar with his daughter and some of their content that they've produced. They both have an online presence. Here he says, a missile just hit near where our daughter lives. He says, please, everyone pray for Israel. And then he shares a screenshot that says, a missile just hit near where our daughter lives. Israelis ordered to remain in shelters as second barrage of Iranian missiles en route. And of course, at this point, there's a third, right? So this was earlier when he reported that. Here are Yemeni people in a very, very large crowd watching a massive screen of successful Iranian missiles landing in Tel Aviv, and they are celebrating and cheering it on. Take a look at this. So they appear to be celebrating. I have seen some videos of people in Gaza also celebrating as they see missiles flying over their head towards Tel Aviv. They feel that they're experiencing a little bit of relief from their perspective, their oppressors, or receiving a bit of a taste of what they've been dishing out themselves for several years now. Here, Netanyahu can be seen in a speech, which we're going to take a look at the full speech, but I wanted to highlight just this portion right now, where it appears he is quoting the Bible to justify his preemptive strike and preemptive war. And yet it's not a quote from the Bible. So it's pretty fascinating. Take a look at this.
As the Bible teaches us, when someone comes to kill you, rise and act first. This is exactly what Israel has done today. As the Bible teaches us, when someone comes to kill you, rise and act first. This is exactly what Israel has done today.
So the question would be if Iran has come to kill Israel, or if it's Israel who has come to kill Iran. Putting that to the side, he attempts to quote the Bible, and yet this is not a passage from the Bible. Ironically, the Bible, at least the one containing the New Testament, appears to say the exact opposite and talks about turning the other cheek. Some may argue it's not applicable here, but the only thing that appears to even resemble this is the exact opposite of it, and it's found in the New Testament. But there doesn't appear to be anything in the Hebrew Bible that backs up and justifies what Netanyahu just said here. Perhaps he's quoting the Talmud or some other Jewish source. However, I do find it interesting that Netanyahu is quoting what he thinks is the Bible here, selectively, albeit, because other places that condemn, for instance, same-sex acts and unions. He has no problem with Israel celebrating on the streets of Tel Aviv every day with pride parades. So it appears that there's an appeal to the Bible, or at least what he thinks is the Bible, when it's convenient, and yet an ignoring and neglect of the Bible in other areas where it's not convenient. So this is actually a theme that we've seen very commonly from Netanyahu. Now, let's move forward. And here is Tucker Carlson reacting to the situation. He has some interesting comments and a noteworthy perspective, whether you agree with it or not. Here's what he's saying. Tucker Carlson called Trump complicit in Israel's attack and urged the president to drop Israel and let them fight their own wars. Unfortunately, already there is American involvement in this. I'm sure many American citizens are not going to be happy about that. Tucker says the United States should not at any point in any level participate in a war with Iran. No funding, no American weapons, no troops on the ground. Regardless of what our special ally, he says, in quotes, regardless of what our special ally says, a fight with the Iranians has nothing to offer the United States. And so I think Tucker is coming from a perspective that says America first, and it also says America needs to stop getting involved in all of these conflicts in the Middle East, especially a conflict that began, it would appear, with Israel. Now, others see it differently, and they see this as Israel responding to previous things that Iran has done in the past. So there's always two different perspectives on which side started the war. However, it appears Netanyahu, in the following speech that I'm about to show you that he offered yesterday when he began the preemptive strike, appears to concede that he is the one who has begun this war. Take a look at this with me, and let's review some parts of it.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons.
Let's start there. He speaks of genocidal rhetoric, and he might appeal to various things that we've seen from Iran. That certainly sounds like it. But the irony, according to some people, would be that it appears that Israel has been engaging in a genocide against the people of Gaza. Now, others will contest that and say, no, absolutely not. They're not intentionally targeting civilians, and they're doing everything that they can to warn civilians, and they're sending out leaflets before an attack, or they're text messaging people before an attack, and other people counterpoint those points and show that in many cases that is not at all what has actually happened, and Israel has knowingly attacked areas that are full of civilians, knowing that they're going to kill those civilians. But because Israel says there might be one important high-profile military personnel in that area, it's worth going ahead and killing all of the adjacent people nearby. So the debate continues to go on, but there have been very high-profile figures in Israel who have come out and said that Israel is committing war crimes. Several former prime ministers of Israel have come out and openly said Israel is committing war crimes. The finance minister, the current finance minister, has recently come out saying some pretty wild things as well, reconfirming in the mind of many people the concerns that a lot of people and grievances that many people and accusations that many of people have made against Israel in this situation with Palestine for quite some time. And so many people feel that the truth is finally being confirmed, even by people from the side of Israel. Okay, so here he speaks again of war crimes. Here he speaks of genocide and a potential threat of genocide to Israel, while again, many people may see it as ironic in light of the claims that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. So let's continue.
In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were the victims of a Holocaust.
There it goes. The Holocaust card. It continues to be played over and over and over. And yet I do notice on social media, for most people, the Holocaust card has ran out of gas. Of course, I think many people recognize, and rightly they should recognize, the Holocaust was a horrible, horrible thing. And having grown up in Israel, having seen so many of the things that have happened as they present to you when you grow up in Israel, you learn all about it. It's an absolutely horrible thing. But the Holocaust card continues to be played to justify what some people would say war crimes. And then in some people's mind, they would indicate and have indicated that it's ironic that the victims of the Holocaust, at least in its state form now in Israel, who have suffered at the hands of so many people in Europe and suffered through the Holocaust, would ironically end up becoming oppressors against other people. So I think in the mind of many people, the Holocaust card has ran out of gas because they feel no longer sympathetic, because they no longer see the Israeli state as a victim. They rather see it as an oppressor. But he continues.
Perpetrated by the Nazi regime. Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program.
What he left out there is it appears Israel has also struck civilian targets. I have seen videos of people in Tehran. What clearly appears to be civilian buildings having been targeted by Israel yesterday. He did appear to leave that part out. Perhaps he has an explanation. Maybe there was a scientist in there. Maybe there was military personnel in there, and they felt it was necessary to blow up the whole building and kill all of the people in the nearby area, perhaps because there's, military personnel there. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out more about that situation and how many, if any, casualties there were. There's certainly a great deal of destruction from the video footage I've seen, but I don't know of the number of casualties. If there are any, I suspect there are.
Last year, Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. Each of these missiles carries a ton of explosives and threatens the lives of hundreds of people. Soon, those missiles could carry a nuclear payload, threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions. Iran is gearing up to produce 10,000s of those ballistic missiles within 3 years.
Okay, so here's, I think, maybe one of the difficulties that some people might offer here, and they would probably push back on this and say, so far, Iran hasn't actually gone through with any attack, in the last week or so, in the last few days or anything with Israel, but Israel has gone through with an attack within the last few days or so against Iran. And so it appears that in the minds of some, Israel is the aggressor. But again, in the minds of Netanyahu and others who are in favor of the Israeli state, the idea is you have to do this for Israel's survival. But how far does that argument go? At what point does that card become overplayed? At what point do you have to say, you know what? it seems that this is always an excuse that is used for preemptive attacks. The idea that the enemy is about to attack us and we just can't let that happen. How many times has that been used as an excuse to start a war with another country?
Now just imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey.
Now, also imagine this. The country of Israel is the size of New Jersey, but it is much more well-funded and has a great deal of a better military than New Jersey does. And of course, the United States is backing Israel, and so it has all of the funds and resources of the United States. And so to appeal to the geographic size of Israel is irrelevant when Israel appears to be nuclear capabilities and also has the resources of the United States and others, many more resources than the adjacent and neighboring countries. And so to make it look like Israel is this teeny tiny country that is weak and defenseless might appear to be misleading, because within that little space of territory, they have a lot, and they certainly have a lot of military might because of American backing. And so I think, however, if you cut off American funding and American backing and any backing from Europe, and you just left Israel on its own to survive on its own, it would collapse almost immediately. But since it is backed up by a lot of bigger brothers who have a lot of strength, it's been able to last and be successful for very long, and is actually a threat to many of the other adjacent countries because of that. And so it might be a little misleading to speak of Israel as the size of New Jersey and to try to portray it as the weaker country here in the Middle East.
This is an intolerable threat. It too must be stopped. Iran is now working on what it calls the new plan to destroy Israel. You see, the old plan failed. Iran and its proxies tried to encircle Israel with a ring of fire and to attack us with the horrible attack of October 7th. But the people...
See, the October 7th tragedy is being brought up again. It's absolutely horrible what Hamas did on October 7th. Absolutely tragic what happened to the Israelis on October 7th. But that has since then continually been used to justify all sorts of things ever since. And in reality, it is absolutely tragic, the amount of civilian casualties that Israel incurred on October 7th. But hasn't there been 100 times more civilian casualties? Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe 10 times more civilian casualties at this point that Israel has inflicted on the people of Palestine ever since then?
People of Israel, the soldiers of Israel, rose like lions to defend our country. We crushed Hamas, we devastated Hezbollah, we hit Iranian proxies in Syria and Yemen. And when Iran directly attacked us twice last year, we struck back inside Iran itself. Yet in defending ourselves, we also defend others. We defend our Arab neighbors. They too have suffered from Iran's campaign of chaos and carnage. Our actions against Iran's proxy Hezbollah led to the establishment of a new government in Lebanon and the collapse of Assad's murderous regime in Syria. The peoples of those two countries now have a chance for a different future, a better future. So too do the brave people of Iran, and I have a message for them. Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship that has oppressed you for 46 years.
And Iran has a lot of problems. And certainly its government is not a good government. And many would point out that Iran is not the good guy here. But on the other hand, they would also point out Israel is also not the good guy here. So it appears in the minds of some, two bad guys are fighting against each other. In the mind of others, they see this as the good versus evil. They see this as David versus Goliath, with Israel ironically being David rather than Iran. Again, in light of what I just said about military might, there's some irony there, right? It might be the inverse. Be that as it may, some people see this as a battle between the righteous and the unrighteous, between the children of God and the children of Satan, between the people, the covenant people of God, and those who are outside of the covenant. And again, many others would contest that and say, no, this is not the covenant people of God. And certainly they're not living like it. When you look at what takes place every day in Israel, they would argue they're clearly not living within the covenant. And others would also argue that that covenant has been transferred to the new covenant and now to the church. And so Israel is no longer the people of God. It's the church that is the people of God. So they would argue the state of Israel has nothing to do with the people of God, and therefore it's not the righteous against the unrighteous. Many different perspectives here. Many different views from many different groups.
I believe that the day of your liberation is near. And when that happens, the great friendship between our two ancient peoples will flourish once again. I want to assure the civilized world, we will not let the world's most dangerous regime get the world's most dangerous weapons. And Iran plans to give those weapons, nuclear weapons, to its terrorist proxies. That would make the nightmare of nuclear terrorism all too real. The increasing range of Iran's ballistic missiles would bring that nuclear nightmare to the cities of Europe and eventually to America. Remember, Iran calls Israel the small Satan. It calls America the great Satan.
So here Netanyahu is reassuring Americans that he has to do this in order to protect not only Israel, but also to protect America. Undoubtedly, he's saying this to secure and continue to secure American support and also American funds from American taxpayers.
And this is why for decades, it's led millions in the chants of death to Israel and death to America. Today, Israel is responding to those genocidal calls with action and with a call of our own. Long live Israel and long live America. Our action will help make the world a much safer place. I want to thank President Trump for his leadership in confronting Iran's nuclear weapons program. He has made clear time and again that Iran cannot have a nuclear enrichment program.
And so again, this is the justification for the preemptive strike. Other people have some reservations here in light of America telling us Iraq had weapons of mass destruction to justify an invasion of Iraq. And it turns out they had nothing of the sort. Yet the people who lobbied for it benefited greatly from that invasion. So a lot of people in the United States are skeptical when their own government tells them that Iran is building nuclear weapons and therefore Israel has to go and do this. Some people remain skeptical when the government tells them such things in light of its track record.
Today, it is clear that Iran is just buying for time. It refuses to agree to this basic requirement of peaceful nations. That is why we have no choice but to act, and act now. The hardest decision any leader has to make is to thwart a danger before it is fully materialized. Nearly a century ago, facing the Nazis, a generation of leaders failed.
Once again, he's appealing to the situation with the Nazis and the Holocaust. The Holocaust card is now brought up a second time within a 7-minute speech, inevitable every single time. But again, I think many people express their frustration when the Holocaust card is brought up and it's ran out of gas for them. It no longer has the mileage it used to have ever since the war in Gaza.
To act in time. They were paralyzed by the horrors of World War I. They were determined to avoid war at all costs, and they got the worst war ever. They adopted a policy of appeasement. They closed their eyes and ears to all the warning signs. That failure to act resulted in World War II, the deadliest war in history.
So here he's saying one should not appease the enemy. as some attempted to do with Hitler's Germany. Rather, they should go ahead and confront evil head on. And if that had been done during World War II, things would have panned out differently. Interestingly enough, if we're going to talk about that topic in different scenarios, there were cases where Hitler was telling America to come and get the Jews, allow the Jews to come to the United States because America has plenty of territory that will allow for these Jews to leave Germany and go there. Of course, America did not take Hitler up on that offer, and we know how that story ended for the Jews in Europe, unfortunately. Was there more that the United States could have done? It appears so. Interestingly enough, is there more the United States could be doing about the situation in Gaza right now? It appears so. And perhaps historians and people in the future will look back on that situation in the same way that many look back on the situation with the Holocaust and what could have been done to avoid it. Be that as it may, here what we're seeing here is we're seeing Netanyahu saying, well, you can't appease people, you have to go ahead and fight them. It's better to just go ahead and get it out of the way. But can't that be flipped around and used as justification to target Israel? Couldn't some argue that what Israel is doing in Gaza is horrible, and therefore, instead of appeasing them, you have to go ahead and target them? Might that then justify what Iran is doing and what other people are doing? I'm sure some people would try to take that angle and make that argument. So it's interesting that some of these arguments can be used to justify different perspectives.
It claimed the lives of 60 million, including 6 million Jews, a third of my people. After that war, the Jewish people and the Jewish state vowed never again. Well, never again is now. Today, Israel has shown that we have learned the lessons of history. When enemies vow to destroy you, believe them. When enemies build weapons of mass death, stop them. As the Bible teaches us, when someone comes to kill you, rise and act first.
We discussed that just moments ago. Again, the Bible doesn't say it, but it's awfully convenient that Netanyahu attempts to quote what he thinks is the Bible when it's not the Bible. But he quotes it, again, what he thinks is the Bible, because it justifies in his mind what he's doing here. However, he does not allow the Bible elsewhere to inform Israeli policy, or to inform the Israeli government, or to inform Israeli morals and values. Again, think of the pride parades in Tel Aviv.
This is exactly what Israel has done today. We have risen like lions to defend ourselves. Over 3,000 years ago, Moses gave the people of Israel a message that has steeled their resolve ever since. Be strong and courageous, he said. Today, our strong and courageous soldiers and people stand together to defend ourselves against.
Notice what he's doing here. He's trying to draw a connection between the state of Israel and Moses. Others would argue that there is no connection between the two, that the state of Israel does not line up with what Moses called for. And in many ways, the state of Israel is against what Moses taught. Again, for example, the issue with same-sex unions, among many, many others. And so, once again, there's an appeal to Moses, an appeal to a claim of being the people of Moses. But others would point out there's nothing of the sort. And this is only an appeal that is made when it's convenient, but certainly not something that the state of Israel actually lives by.
Against those who seek our destruction. And by defending ourselves, we defend many others, and we roll back a murderous tyranny. Generations from now, history will record that our generation stood its ground, acted in time, and secured our common future. May God bless Israel. May God bless the forces of civilization everywhere.
So he says history is going to look back and judge him well and what Israel is doing favorably. They're going to look back favorably. Others will argue that history will look back on this and say, in fact, that Israel became the very thing that it was a victim of. Israel became the oppressor, and that Israel began to engage in genocide and war crimes in the same way that the Nazis did against the Jewish people. And so it's going to be interesting. Maybe some of us will be around to see what some people say decades, if not maybe 50 years from now, how they'll look back on this. And will they say that Israel is justified for this? Or will they shake their heads in amazement and condemn Israel for what they would deem to be hypocrisy? Time will tell. In fact, maybe sooner than later, we'll find out if Netanyahu himself is going to be tried as a war crime. Many people are calling for him to be tried as a war criminal. Is there going to be something newer, like a newer version of the Nuremberg trials? Y'all remember the Nuremberg trials after the atrocities of World War II? Many of the war criminals of Germany were tried, prosecuted, condemned. Will there be a newer version of the Nuremberg trials? But this time, Netanyahu and others in leadership in the state of Israel will be put on trial. Time will tell, but I think we might find the answer to that sooner rather than later. Or will it be later? Will this delay Netanyahu relinquishing power? Will this make him be able to stay in power longer so that he can avoid facing trial in an international court? And is this maybe one of the reasons why he began this preemptive strike? Not because of a nuclear capability, but rather to avoid being held accountable for what he has done elsewhere, and for allowing what some people would say, him allowing what took place on October 7th. Again, time will tell. I'll keep you as updated as possible as this story is still unfolding. There's information coming across us and coming our way 1,000 miles per second. And so there's a lot of information to digest, but I'll do my best to keep you updated. If you want to be updated, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment too. I'd love to hear from you. Do you agree? You disagree? What's your perspective? You think that he should do this? Shouldn't have done it? You think Israel's right? You think Iran is right? You think neither are right? Is this not a case of good versus evil? Is this actually a case of evil versus evil? I want to hear from you. Put your answer in the comment section. See you later.